welcome to the future, otherwise known as episode 46 of Tomorrow's World Audit Time. Evening, Mark.
Evening, Russ. How are you?
Oh, feeling very festive, Mark. Very festive this time of year. I'm sure you are as well. Of course, it is my most favourite festival of the year today. It is, of course, Black Friday. Wishing you a very merry Black Friday, Mark.
Oh, and a very happy Black Friday to you, Russ.
Obviously, I've been taking part in all of the, ancient Black Friday traditions. Went down the electrical shop for a punch-up this morning. Maxed out my credit card on Amazon this afternoon. Yeah, real traditional Black Friday I've had.
Oh, you haven't made the rookie mistake of not waiting for Cyber Monday, have you, Russ?
It's all right, Mark. I'll just take out another credit card over the weekend and I can spend that on Cyber Monday. Yes. I mean, there are no Black Friday themed episodes of Tomorrow's World, Mark, as you may not be surprised. I mean, every episode's kind of Cyber Monday themed, isn't it, really? Because it's about technology. But, yeah.
What a great segue, Russ.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Actually, there's doing massive discounts on great segues on Segways R Us at the moment on Black Friday.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of what we could do for an episode, Mark, and I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of bad news recently. A lot of things are getting us down, and I thought, how could we cheer ourselves up, Mark? And I stumbled across another episode of Tomorrow's World that opens with a new song from the canon of Sir Michael Rodd.
Absolutely amazing.
And I thought, if anything's going to cheer us up, Mark, if anything's going to bring us out of those autumn blues, then it's going to be a song from Michael Rodd. So I literally just picked it based on that. I didn't even watch the rest of the episode, so I have no idea what it's like, Mark, because it's just that song at the beginning and that's it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the rest of the episode is an absolute belter. I'm not sure.
When you sent me that text message saying, we need to find a salve for everyone's psychic wounds, and I found a Michael Rodd song episode, I was really, really delighted. And when I watched it for the first time, there was a bit of me that was a bit disappointed that the song opens the show, because I remember thinking, it doesn't matter how good the show is, it's not going to be able to live up to the beginning. How right I was, Russ, because this is maybe, to add insult to injury, are we not all suffering enough? This may be the worst episode we've ever seen. And I know when you saw my notes, you were thrilled at how angry I was at my notes. And when I read yours when you added them on, I was delighted to see that you also don't like this episode.
No, it's rubbish. It's rubbish, Mark.
It's awful.
It's a testament, to how little content there is in this episode, that I did the research in 2.5 hours today, and you'll hear that a lot of the research is not even based on things that happen in the program. That's how how scant it is on interesting stuff. So I'm sure we'll be able to rattle through this in 45 minutes. What do you reckon?
Oh, let's start. Is that a promise? Come on.
Yeah. Well, our 45 minutes anyway. What we consider, yeah. So let's say 2 hours. But yeah, a bit of background. This is the 24th of January 1980, Mark. I thought I'd just tell you about a couple of interesting things that were happening at the time in this month of that year. Famous births. Your favourite, Kemi Badenoch. She was born on the 2nd of January.
She's one of my favourites.
Yeah. And Lin-Manuel Miranda of what's it called? Not Harrison. What's it called?
Hamilton
fame.
Yeah. I like him.
Zooey Deschanel.
Zoe.
And Jensen Button, all born in January 1980.
What an interesting bunch.
Yes.
Genuinely, in my head, they fall into two different camps. I like that. That's exciting.
The first ever Iranian presidential election was tomorrow, on the 25th of January.
That's exciting.
Coca-Cola in America started. This is when they first started using high fructose corn syrup instead of sugar in their Coca-Cola. So this can be deemed as D-Day for Americans getting ridiculously fat, isn't it? Isn't that is that the main cause of their fatness?
Yes. The subsidizing of cornfields in Iowa, isn't it? Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Classic 80s toy, the Rubik's Cube, debuted on the 29th of January. And I think this is interesting. This is actual bit of science here, Mark. I thought this was very interesting. So it turns out that computer systems, the way they work, the time they have a clock inside them, right? And and if you make a new computer system, you have to give it a new clock, and the clock will start from 0, and it will just count up.
Okay.
So GPS, the 0 time for the whole GPS system that it's been counting from since it was invented was at 23:59 and 42 seconds on January the 6th, 1980. That for the GPS system is 0.0 of time, and all it's been doing is counting 1 second up since then. It's interesting, isn't it?
That is quite interesting. Why is that? Is it just that they have an internal measurement?
They just have a number which they can refer to. They just look at the computer, look at the number, and go, it's 5,645,000, and then it's able to convert that into a time. And apparently, all computers do that. It's called its epoch. And interestingly, there's a big problem coming up, Mark. So the Unix computer system has its own epoch, and huge numbers of computers all around the world run on Unix. But when they first invented Unix, they set its clock starting on the 1st of January at midnight, 1st of January 1970. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, January 1970 is a long time ago, and old computers don't have the ability to store particularly large numbers. And because this number has been increasing in size ever since 1970, there are a lot of old systems that run on old Unix that don't have the ability to store a number big enough beyond a certain point. Mm-hmm. And that point is 14 minutes past 3 in the morning on the 19th of January 2038. When time hits that point, a huge number of legacy Unix systems are just going to collapse. It's going to be the new,
right?
Yes, it's going to be the new Y2K.
I was about to say, as somebody who has the scars on their backs having survived Y2K, this does feel like The Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Well, this is big news, Mark. This could potentially even scarier than Y2K. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Can you give me an example of something that runs on Unix?
Everything. I don't know.
Everything. So somewhere between nothing and evering might go wrong.
I think a lot of things do run on Unix, Mark. I'm sure somebody could write in and explain. I'm not that much of a computer expert, but I think lots of mainframes and things like that run on it. I think that's my.
Okay, so I have 4 World Cups to enjoy before the world stops.
Yes, and
okay.
Anyway, Michael Rodd. I thought I'd see whether there was any new Michael Rodd. Obviously, I covered him way back in episode 1. I probably didn't do a very good job of it, actually, because I didn't really do as much research back then as I do now. But I thought, has there been any Michael Rodd news in the past year, for example? So I had a look, and it threw up a thing that we should have marked, Mark.
Oh,
turns out that this time last year, almost exactly, a week ago this time last year, 21st of November 2023, Michael Bjorn Blackstad died. Now, Michael Bjorn Blackstad is the editor of Tomorrow's World between 1974 and 1980.
Oh, wow.
So he would have done this episode that we're going to watch now. He was the one who famously, I think you might remember, he's the one who famously fell out with Raymond Baxter, and the reason why Raymond Baxter left Tomorrow's World.
Yeah.
And Raymond Baxter didn't like him because he turned up to work on a bicycle.
I remember that, yeah.
Yes. Which might explain one of the segments later on in the programme. So Blackstad also used to produce Wicker's World, which I didn't know, including the famous Papa Doc episode. Have you ever seen that episode?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it's on
incredible.
YouTube, everyone. Make sure you watch it. It's brilliant. But most importantly, after Blackstad left Tomorrow's World, he set up a TV production company called Blackrod. Guess who he set it up with?
No way.
Yes, yeah. He set up a TV production company with Michael Rodd called Blackrod, and they made mainly sort of educational TV programs. And I found one of them, which is a program called Open College, which was shown on Channel 4. And what it was a short-lived attempt to do the Open University, but for college subjects. So sort of more like, this one, for example, was about electronics.
Okay.
And look who's on it, Mark. Look who's on it. Who's presenting it.
Welcome to the last in our series of Powerbase. In today's programme, we're going to be introducing you to two vitally important components in many electrical circuits, the capacitor and the inductor.
And we'll see how a capacitor stores up the electrons to make this flash gun flash.
Oh, my God. Carol Vorderman.
So, yeah, Michael Rodd and Carol Vorderman used to present a TV programme together.
That's amazing.
Well,
That never came up when you were discussing Carol Vorderman about 15 episodes?
No, that's a new discovery. How
It's incredible, yeah.
the Tomorrow's World paths crossed in the past. Oh, yeah, and also, apparently, Michael Rodd did used to occasionally stand in as presenter of the TV programme The Time, The Place, Mark. Did you know that?
Did he really? No, I did not know that.
So before John Stapleton presented it,
Yeah.
there was another person called Michael Scott who presented it, and Rod would stand in for Michael Scott when Michael Scott was on holiday. Yeah, that's a little crossover with John Stapleton. Obviously, our heart goes out to John Stapleton, Mark, because he recently revealed that he has Parkinson's disease.
Yes.
Just last month. So,
Yeah.
yes, obviously, he had a dear place in our heart, Mark, as somebody who I text you photographs of when we've decided upon the time and the place of doing something.
An episode. I have to say, I was actually disappointed that you didn't send me one today, but now I know why. It's because you're keeping your powder dry.
Yes, yeah. But
it's amazing that you find a new picture every time.
relish them while you can, Mark, because they'll soon run out.
They will see. They are a finite resource, aren't they?
Wow. Shall we? Well, brace yourself. Shall we just get straight into this? We've had a real run of new title sequences, haven't we, Mark? It seems like you've had to.
You know, these take time to do. Yeah.
I can tell, Mark. The sheer quality shines through.
Okay. So we have the usual for this Tomorrow's World era, this Tomorrow's World epoch, with the usual opening credits and music. It's the Brain Sphere. If you can picture that in your mind, the Brain Sphere opening titles. But the spliced images are different than we've seen before us, which is exciting, obviously.
Yes.
As the camera passes through the channels of what we discover to be the Brain Sphere, we see the following. I was about to say in no specific order, but they are literally in the order. I don't know why. There you go. What seems like some kind of static, but is actually perhaps some kind of visual representation of a digital signal. A segment of a spinning laserdisc revealing all the colours of the rainbow. What the Predator sees when he's looking at a man's hand.
That very much reminded me of the bit in Predator where he picks up the scorpion and he has the scorpion in his hand and looks at it. Did not think that was a very
No, I did. That's exactly what popped into my head. Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime.
An epileptic nightmare. It's a very quick insert, and I mean very quick. I think there might be 8 frames. A very quick insert of what looks like the close-up of some kind of giant, massive spinning axle, I suppose, behind which there is some quickly flashing lights, which it just feels like it's malicious. There's a giant robotic welder moving into position in a car factory. There's the close-up of an embryonic foot in utero. Also, again, only on screen for 7-8 frames. And then there are some terrifying bladed gears starting up and immediately spinning at thousands of revolutions per second. What perplexed me was how little time they're all on screen for us. I had to really scrub through to work out what some of them were, because they are impossible to catch.
They're trying to just keep them in time with the aren't they?
Yeah, they are, yeah, which isn't very long. Actually, I think the version you've just done there is probably twice as long as the actual sound on the... Yeah, I think you're right. No, there is a rhythm to it, but it is kind of weird why they'd bother, I suppose.
Still a tune though, Mark, still a tune. Although
it's a banger, Russ.
Not as good a tune as this.
Yeah, it's the opening act, right? Here's the headliner.
It's very nice to have the chance to sing a scientific song on a show like Tomorrow's World. Make the bill complete, tap your feet, hit the beat on the skin of a big bass drum. Ooh, I could sing about microchips all night long. It's good to have the chance to sing a scientific song. My excuse is to demonstrate the problem that a sound engineer would face. Ideally, you see, he likes to isolate each element of the music, one microphone to pick up each one. The voice has one, the guitar has one, the bass drum has one. In that way, he can blend all the sounds quite separately to produce, even for me, the best results he can. In practice, of course, it doesn't work that way, because the guitar mic picks up a little voice, the voice picks up a little guitar, and the drum gets in on everything. But here's something that might help him get over that problem altogether. It's a piece of sticky tape, which is also a microphone. It can be attached to anything that vibrates, like a musical instrument, and it should be able to pick up those vibrations and exclude all others. So, if you'll bear with me, we'll go through the same routine, but this time I'll ask the engineers to gradually fade out the sound from the other microphones and see if this isolates the guitar successfully. It's very nice to have the chance to sing a scientific song. It's working. Let's take it off the guitar. Stick it onto something else vibrating, the bass drum. Now this might be a bit more tricky because the membrane of the drum actually acts rather like a microphone itself. It might pick up everything else. But let's see, where were we? Oh, I could sing about microchips. Well, of course, the application to the recording of real music, especially pop, is obvious, but the story doesn't end there. This is a desk fitted with one of these sensitive microphones, capable of picking up the vibration of anybody going in. If somebody tampers with this drawer, they'll set up the vibrations picked up by the microphone. A little circuit up here will trigger the alarm. Indeed, I did that simply by clunking the guitar too heavily on the top of the desk. But look at this. The cleaning lady can fuss around the desk, sweeping and tidying, but should anybody go into the desk, the vibrations are enough to trigger the alarm. You could use the sticky microphone to test a structure, listening to it moving under strain. You could use it to test the suitability of a piece of metal for a particular job. Here's the microphone. A piece of metal is suspended. By picking up its natural vibrations, amplifying them, feeding them through a loudspeaker back to the metal, we can identify the natural resonant frequency of this piece of metal. Now, if I was a vehicle designer, I could have to do something to solve that problem, because noises like that on the open road are not exactly going to be a sales feature in my new car. We've waterproofed one of the new microphones. Now it's acting as a hydrophone, listening to sound inside that tumbler. I have to give you a headache. Anything moving around underground can be picked up too. What's going on inside this flower pot? Any guesses? Well, let's see. Ah, fat and wriggly. Well, if you make a noise like that, my friend, you're certainly not going to dodge the early worm. Well, from a fascinating device capable of listening to things to a medical research program which could save lives.
How long do you think you could sing about microchips, Mark? Do you think you could sing all night long?
Yeah, I think so. Especially if I could sing about McCain's microchips as well, because I think that'll at least double the amount of time I can sing for.
I have heard they are quickety quick microchips, aren't they?
Yeah, very good. Well remembered.
Yes. Oh, it's a love. It's a cheery old ditty. It's growing on me.
Yes.
I think you're right. I don't
Agreed.
think it's as good as. I don't think it's as good as Too Much Technology Blues, which
No.
I think will always be the standout. What's the other one that you sang?
Never Have the Chance Again.
Oh, Never Had a Chance Again. Yes, yeah. This one is a lot more cheerful than the other two. I think there's no.
Well,
there's
the others we felt like revealed a dark, tragic soul at the centre of Michael Roth. Like there's something really plaintive and mournful about those songs, even though ostensibly they're quite uplifting. There really are. There's a sadness to them. Whereas this is just pure joy. He's just delighted to be able to grab his guitar. He says any excuse, and frankly, he doesn't need any at all. The only reason I'm doing this show, frankly, Ross, is because I believe there might be a handful of songs out there that we have got to discover.
Yeah. Those lyrics in full, Mark. It's very nice to have the chance to sing a scientific song on a show like Tomorrow's World. It fits in quite a lot of lyrics to fit in one in the first line there. And then he says, is it bill complete?
I think, no, make the bill complete, yeah.
It is bill complete. Make the bill complete, tap your feet, hit the beat on the skin of a big bass drum. He's got the big bass drum there, Mark. He's not lying.
He does.
He's got it.
I can see it. I saw it and I heard it.
Oh, I could sing about microchips all night long.
All night long.
And it's good to have the chance to sing a scientific song. Yeah. I don't know whether there are any other lyrics. I mean, there may have been another verse, but obviously part of the demonstration is that his voice is faded out because he's demonstrating this sticky tape microphone, which you can attach to anything, and then it will only play whatever it is attached to. Which I don't know. I'm surprised that needs to be invented. I guess maybe there's something about the flexibility of it that is a new thing, because it could. I mean, all a microphone's doing is transmitting vibrations, isn't it? I mean, what is it? Just that it's a bit flexible and sticky? Is that?
Yes, actually, now that you said that out loud, yes, it's just like it's long and thin, sticky, right? Because God, even this segment is crappier than I thought.
And what
this is the good one.
What else when you've stuck it to? Well, I mean, it's the power of Rod's song there, Mark. That's the thing.
Is, yes, absolutely.
Absolute power of his song is bamboozled you.
Well, I mean, because the one thing we definitely agreed was that this microphone has not been designed for music at all.
No. No.
Yeah. So when he says any excuse, like he genuinely is. It genuinely is an excuse to sing a song, because this is. The examples that he shows later, the resonance of a piece of metal, or use a security thing on a desk, or I don't know, listening to worms wriggle in a plant pot, which I know we'll come to later. They see much more what this thing is designed for, picking up vibrations rather than sound. It just happens that sound is a vibration, right?
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, but I think you're right, actually. Yeah, it is. It's just that it's sellotape.
What happens when you stuck it to a few things? It's got a bit fluffy. Do you have to just throw it away?
do you think there's a roll of microphone?
Yeah.
It's just people trying to pick away with their nails.
Yeah. Because obviously the thing with the instruments is that when you're recording instruments for a record, you record each piece separately and then combine them.
Yes.
Using
As Michael Rudd himself taught us in a different episode of Tomorrow's World.
Yeah. So you
when
don't
he
need
sang, never have the chance again.
So the idea that this would be used to record instruments separately, and also surely it affects the sound if you're taking the sound directly from the surface of the instrument rather than taking it from the air in front of the instrument.
Correct, absolutely. When you hear his second version where the microphone is on the guitar, it is kind of tinny. It lacks a kind of a sonorific quality to it. Like, it's awful. Like, it's just like it's an inappropriate use of this technology.
Yeah, but anyway,
except that it has midwifed this amazing song that we love, and that I've been humming all of the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be sure to play it again at the end of the episode.
You have
Don't
to.
worry. And he puts down his guitar and goes across. We've got one of these classic Tomorrow's World things of multiple things set up in a row that they go between, which I always enjoy.
Yes. Always very good, isn't it? Yeah.
First of all, he goes to the first desk of the episode. I would say the second most exciting desk of the episode, I would say. I don't want to give too much away, and he explains how it could be used as an anti-theft device by listening for the drawers to be opened. And Can I just say, Russ,
can you imagine how excited the audience are at the idea that there's a more exciting desk in this episode? What a tease.
Yeah.
Fuck me. My God. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of listeners who only listen for the most notable furniture category. That is
perverts, a lot of them.
But he demonstrates how this microphone, the useful of this microphone is that it won't be set off by the cleaning lady in front of with a vacuum or whatever, or broom.
fussing
in front of the
fussing of the cleaning lady
in front of the desk.
Fussing, she's doing a fucking job.
And he demonstrates this by doing this funny little hot shoe shuffle in front of almost like a proto Michael Jackson type.
I genuinely thought he was having a stroke. I could not understand. Like it's like the way a horse kind of paws at the ground.
Yeah,
or hooves at the ground, I suppose is probably more. But and then it's not just the sexism; it's how patronising that the cleaning lady apparently is fussing around. She's doing her job. Leave her alone. Oh, sorry. Carry on, Russ.
And then it moves on next. He goes on to what I think probably, to my mind, is the actual use of this, and that is to attach it to materials such as this large slab of metal that he's got, and it's almost a monolith of metal, Mark.
Sorry, yes. I see where you're going, Rose.
Obviously we've discussed this before. One way of testing the integrity of materials is to pass sound through it, and then if there's any imperfections or whatever, they'll be able to tell because they'll know what it should sound like, and if it sounds wrong, then they'll know there's a crack in it or whatever like that. And obviously this is absolutely ideal for that. You can slap it on your metal monolith, pass a sound through it, so it makes kind of like an almost spooky, wailing sound. Yeah, it reminded me of something. I don't know what it was, but yeah. So this sort of this high pitched droning sound comes out of this large square monolith. Shame it wasn't painted black, actually. And obviously the microphone can pick all of this up. So yeah, that's a great use of it, and I think probably the one is why they designed it in the first place. We then get to see it dropped in a glass of effervescent tablets. Effervescent, as Mrs. Green used to say at school, tablets.
Yep.
We get to hear them fizzing away. Very enjoyable. And then there's a funny noise coming from the potted fern, and he upends the fern. And this one, I'm not sure. Were those worms really making that much of a noise in there? Because they're not. It seems like that that microphone must have been set, like the sensitivity must have been cranked right up for the worms to be that loud.
I did also wonder if they were if there was a little bit of cheating in there, but actually I kind of think they probably didn't, and it probably is just on the inside. It's stuck to the inside of the pot or something like that. But what that did remind me of, have you ever seen the picture of L. Ron Hubbard auditing a tomato plant.
No.
I don't think I can share my screen with you, Russ, but if you Google L. Ron Hubbard plant...
L. Ron Hubbard.
I don't know if I can
Plant.
share. I think it's because this is your work one, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So is that what they call that machine?
An e-meter. So it's a proto e-meter, and he was auditing the plants in his greenhouse. One assumes down in East Grinstead. So yeah, that's what this reminded me of. I was thinking like, oh man, if L. Ron Hubbard was alive when this was on, he may well have been watching Russ. What with him being down in Sussex,
bit kinky actually.
Yeah,
It looks like it got the poor tomato in like nipple clamps.
Yeah. Like I was kind of thinking whenever I see that picture, I think like, well, I mean, you may well be auditing those plants, but you're also killing them as well.
I did think actually, I don't know whether you've ever seen. There's a famous episode of Tales of the Unexpected where I can't remember who it is now. It's a famous actor. He invents a machine that can hear plants. The noises that plants make, and it turns out they're all like screaming agony. So I was thinking that maybe this microphone was so sensitive that we were going to hear this fern talk to us, but no, it's the worms. But I just want to draw your attention to what Rod says. So he tips out this fern. A couple of worms drop out onto the desk, and he goes, "Ha ha, fat and wriggly," and then addresses the worms themselves. It says, "Well, if you make a noise like that, my friend, you're certainly not going to dodge the early worm." What's he talking about there, Mark? I don't think... Does he think that the old saying is the early worm catches the noisy worm? Because that's not what it is.
I think we both know he screwed up there, Russ. And I fear, as I've said before, I just have this horrible feeling that Michael Robb would have gone into his changing room afterwards and kind of whipped himself Opus Day style.
Bird! The word's bird! Why do you say bird? Bird is the word!
Have I learned nothing from that song?
Yeah. So interesting. I wonder if he even noticed or anybody pointed, because you might sometimes you just say things and don't notice you said it. I mean, I noticed this.
Yeah, it's true.
When I'm editing, I realise that the amount of times we say things completely wrong and you don't notice them at the time. And then I notice it when I'm editing, and obviously I edit it out when I say it, and then leave it in when you say it. Surface microphone, the only ones I could find, I couldn't find any that were sort of long and flat. Well, sort of flat ones, but not long like this one. All the ones I could find are circular. You can use them for anything. Like they seem to be sold for whatever you want to use them for, but the way they're advertised is that they seem to be used in automotive and aerospace things. A lot of them seem to say, "Oh, this will work in a wind tunnel," or words to that effect. So I think they probably like to slap them on vehicles when they're testing them for various things. Those are the ones I could find anyway. It's quite hard to find much because there's obviously so many podcasters these days, Mark, that the internet's just full of people trying to sell microphones. So you have to wade through a lot of stuff.
Wankers.
Yeah. But I wondered, what's the most powerful microphone you can get these days?
Oh.
And apparently, the Sanken MO64 is commercially available. It cost you $4,000 to buy. It's a Japanese microphone, but it's powerful enough that you can hear an ant's footsteps or a snail's heartbeat with it.
A snail's heartbeat?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I then very nearly fell down a rabbit hole, but I stayed away because it seemed too complicated.
Pulled yourself out.
Pulled myself out.
Well done.
Because I discovered an article talking about how scientists have invented a phonon detector. And I went, what's a phonon? And did you know this? That there's a sound equivalent of a photon.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So it turns out that you can get the sound equivalent of a photon, and it's called a phonon. And it obeys the laws of quantum physics in the same way that a photon does. But it's sound.
I thought sound was just like vibrations in the
But apparently on the quantum level it's not. And this is why I just avoided it, because I just went, this is
don't need to know this.
And I thought, is this why have I never heard of this? Is this made up? And I looked, I did there was Googling, and there's quite a few articles about it. So apparently it's not. But it seems like this thing that everyone's just decided to ignore because it sounds mental. But apparently, yeah, there is a thing called a phonon, and it's the sound version of a photon. And some people at Stanford have invented a machine that can detect them. They have that same thing that photons have, where you can't measure them because as soon as you measure them, they change. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to go into that. That's homework if anybody else is interested in that. The other thing I wanted to look at, Mark, was Alka-Seltzer. Because I was thinking...
Plink, plink, fizz.
Yeah, I mean, that is that real sort of... Everyone knows plink, plink, fizz, fizz. I mean, I can't remember the last time I actually had an Alka-Seltzer, though. When was the last time you had an Alka-Seltzer?
I have no idea. I genuinely had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered. And so it was launched in 1931, but it is essentially the creation of... I mean, it has functional ingredients. All it is aspirin, citric acid, and bicarbonate of soda mixed together into a tablet.
Soluble aspirin, right? That's it.
Yeah. So obviously got aspirin in it, so it helps your headache, and it's got bicarb in it, so it helps your indigestion. Those are things it do. But it is essentially made of incredibly cheap like materials, and it's basically the invention of a marketing man who helped develop it. And from day one, they pushed the advertising of it massively. And it is essentially a product that has thrived on the sheer amount of advertising that it's had. Because there's plenty of other things that were more effective that aren't famous. But yeah, but everyone knows what Alka-Seltzer is. So I thought I'll give you a quick run through of the advertising history of Alka-Seltzer, Mark.
Well, please, we have to fill this episode with something. Go for it.
So obviously it's an American product. So it started off in 1932. It sponsored the 1932 Alka-Seltzer Comedy Star of Hollywood radio show. I love the way Americans used to just name things after products like that. But then once TV came along, they had this incredibly irritating character who used to advertise it. I think maybe possibly to try and give you a headache just so you bought more of it. But yeah, here he is. I'll play him to you. This is Speedy Alka-Seltzer plays the vibes.
Alka-Seltzer, Speedy Alka-Seltzer, acid indigestion and a headache too. When they come to bring you grief, Alka-Seltzer gives relief. Alka-Seltzer, Alka-Seltzer.
They made 200 different adverts featuring that character.
That's such a piercing voice.
Between 1954 and 1964. In 10 years, they made 200 different adverts with that little shit in them.
Yeah.
But then...
That's what, one every 2.5 weeks or something.
Yeah. But then, late 60s, advertising becomes a bit more, what's the word? Complicated? No.
Sophisticated.
Sophisticated, that's the word.
Yeah.
And then I discovered that this is where this catchphrase comes from. Do you know this advert?
Mamma mia, that's some species. Cut spicy meatballs, Jack. Sorry. Take 28. Out, Tony. And action. Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball. Cut. What was the matter with that? The accent. Huh. Cut. Cut. Micey, micey, ballsy, ballsy. Take 59. And action. Jack.
Sometimes you eat more than you should. And when it's spicy besides, Mamma mia, do you need Alka-Seltzer? Alka-Seltzer can help unstuff you, relieve the acid indigestion, and help make you your old self again.
Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball. Cut. Okay. Let's break for lunch.
That's very good.
Yeah. I think it's regarded as one of the first sort of, what's the word, postmodern?
Meta?
Yeah, meta adverts.
Yeah. That's very good. It works. I get it. I did not know that's where Mamma Mia, that's a spicy meatball. That's just like The Simpsons or something like that.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then in the 70s, they hired Sammy Davis Jr., presumably because Sammy Davis Jr. is a legendary boozer. He did a whole series of cracking adverts. This is my favourite.
Well, you either hire Sammy or Dean, right?
You stayed up all night. Wow, what a blast. Now your head and your stomach needs relief fast. Fast, fast, fast. Alka-Seltzer. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Alka-Seltzer speeds relief to your aching head and starts to work instantly to break up the discomfort of acid indigestion. Oh, what a relief it is. Fast, fast, fast!
Incidentally, the plomp plomp fizz fizz thing was only invented to double sales because they realised if they tell everyone to drop two tablets into
buy
the
twice as many packets. God
damn. They just buy twice as many.
God
That's
damn
all it
it.
is.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah.
So then, obviously, in Britain, we also had Alka-Seltzer adverts. This is a good one. This is Oliver Reed doing the voiceover of the British one. I noticed the British one concentrates more on booze than the American one for some unknown reason. This is Oliver Reed Christmas advert.
Celebrate with a drop of bubbly, sprinkling of peanuts, some smoky bacon crisps, a pint of lager, tandoori chicken, top up with lager, lime, pickles, a couple of poppadoms, 2 coffees, a couple of brandies, and give it a whirl. It's your body's way of telling you could use Alka-Seltzer. Original Alka-Seltzer, all lemon flavor, specially made for fast relief from headaches with upset stomach. Put a little pling pling fizz in your life.
And one last one, Mark. One last one. Wait a second, where is it? This is my favourite one.
Alka-Seltzer. When you've eaten something you shouldn't have.
Obviously, that won't come across in the audio at all. But yeah, it's Alka-Seltzer lifeboat advert. That's the best one.
Two sailors. Yes, absolutely. Very good.
Excellent cannibalism punchline. So, yeah, that's a quick advert break. Mark, should we get on to the next segment?
Yep, let's do it.
In the Western world, more of us will die of heart disease than any other single cause. But it's very hard to detect, and death can be sudden. Ischemic heart disease is the most common kind. As this Swedish film shows, it can be caused by fatty deposits like these inside the arteries to the heart. This reduces the blood supply and oxygen to the muscles of the heart, which causes pain called angina. Here inside the heart, if it doesn't get the blood it needs, part of the heart muscle may die and give way. But with early diagnosis, only a small proportion of heart attacks need cause ruptures like this.
Good afternoon,
Come
Doctor.
and take a seat.
Thank you.
Mr. Vixen has had pains in his chest, but it's not that easy for doctors to detect whether or not he's got heart disease.
Well, it's like a tight gripping pain in the chest, which goes into my upper jaw and then radiates down my left arm.
The doctor can get some clue from the patient's description of the symptoms, but to be more certain, he'll do a series of screening tests. And an exercise stress test has always been regarded as one of the most revealing. The most advanced way of doing this is to inject the patient with a harmless radioactive tracer, so a gamma-ray camera can be moved in position to monitor the movement of the heart. What the doctors are looking at as the heart expands and contracts is the way the red lines are moving. This picture taken before exercise will be compared to another at the end of the stress test to see if the heart performs poorly under stress. Now the patient starts to exercise for 15 minutes. But there are problems with this test. It's difficult to keep your chest still while your legs are bicycling so the camera can monitor your heart. What's more, many patients are unfit or too ill for the physical exertion. But worst of all, some doctors fear the results are all too often inaccurate. In this case, it looks like good news for Mr. Vixen. Here you can see the results of the exercise test on the right, the heart at rest on the left. The movement of the heart is identical on both. But what about those fears of inaccurate results? Well, the doctors have now come up with a much more effective stress test, a bucket of cold water full of ice. This test is entirely different from the exercise stress test. It's based on the principle that when the arteries contract, it's harder for the heart to pump blood around the body, and coldness does contract the arteries.
When the patient puts his arm in the iced water, there's a reflex action. Not only do the arteries in the arm contract, but those in the heart as well. That puts stress on the heart, which the doctor can measure, just as they did with the exercise technique. Here are Mr. Vixen's results after the new test. On the left is the moving heart before the test, and here on the right, after the test. Now this time, after stress, there's a difference between the two images. Look closely at the bottom right-hand corner of the image of the heart after being under stress. The experts can see that the red lines aren't moving in the normal way, and that's revealed that the heart is not contracting properly. That early warning of trouble ahead might easily have saved Mr. Vixen's life, and now he's looking after himself better. He's given up cigarettes, and he's learning to live a more relaxed life, avoiding the stress that brings sudden death to so many of us.
So without beating around the bush, Russ, this is where this episode spirals off the rails. Because the first time I watched this, the episode, first time we watched it, I watch it all the way through because I like to see it in context, and then I go back, and obviously I have thoughts while I'm watching it, and then I go back and I watch each segment individually, and I write my notes as I'm watching through. And the first time round, I suppose, because it was a health one, I kind of switched off a bit, and I'm sure you did too. It's like, oh, another year. So it took me that second go to realize something profound, Russ, which was that at the heart of this segment is the innovation at the heart of this segment is the utilization of a bucket and ice water. It's not the screening, it's not the testing, it's not the camera, it's not the footage we see from Sweden, it's not heart disease in general, it's not how you can improve your heart health. It's the utilization of a bucket with ice water. Am I wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong, Russ.
I thought it was the hot new arcade game Scrotum Invaders that they were playing. That they were playing on the computer screen in the hospital. There,
see, I didn't want to beat around the bush. Apparently, you want to settle there.
I was so mesmerised by the pulsating ball bags, Mark. Yes.
So it should be explained that when they use this kind of camera to see where the radioactive material is, and they show you a kind of a digital representation of the heart, it looks like a goddamn ball bag. It looks like a scrotum. There is no two ways. A scrotal sack. That's the only phrase I can think of.
But then there's like four of them on the screen all at once, all all pulsating away.
Pulsating. Oh, it's creepy. No wonder he has heart problems.
I think you might be right, the bucket of ice. What it reminded me of is there's that old rumour that they always used to say at school, if somebody passes out drunk, if you put their hand in a bowl of water or whatever,
warm water, I think.
Then they'll wet themselves in the night. I don't know whether that's true. I've never actually seen it done or experienced it. I like to think it is, but obviously Mr. Vixen here, I think that's his name. Doesn't look like he's noticeably soiled himself or disgraced himself, because we see him striding down the road later on, and there's no wet patches on him. Yeah, it's
a bone. Well done.
There's not a lot happening here, is there?
No,
we don't.
Is it a special bucket? Tell me it's a special bucket. Tell me
it's a lovely yellow.
Same colour as Big Rod's bass drum, actually.
Yes.
Should be said.
Yeah.
Great. Next.
I was thinking. Obviously, Rod said it's a leader. He says it's leading
in the West. Yeah.
Yes. I'm amazed that in the 70s that it wasn't the fact that would you think everybody would die of heart disease in the 70s, wouldn't you? I would think.
Well,
that,
only the people who survived lung cancer would die of heart attack.
Yeah. I'm amazed that there's anybody dying of anything. I suppose drink drive crashes probably is another one. I imagine it's lung cancer, heart disease, and drink drive crashes are probably the only three things killing people in the 70s. I would have thought. Actually, I did check, and ischemic heart disease is still the number one killer. It's had a go at my dad in the past. He absolutely shrugged it off. It had 3 heart attacks now, barely touched the sides.
He doesn't know you're not supposed to collect them, right?
You're getting one for each ventricle. We only got one more to go. It's responsible for 13% of all deaths worldwide these days. In 2021, it killed 9 million people, which is more than COVID. COVID killed 8.7 million people in 2021. So yeah, still a big problem. That equates to one death every 3.5 seconds, Mark.
Wow.
So, imagine how many will have died by the time this episode's finished.
That's a bit depressing, isn't it?
Well, as long as it's neither of us, Mark, it's okay.
That's true, yeah.
I did find a table of the highest and lowest death rates from heart disease in the world, Mark. Do you want to have a little go at guessing? Oh. You're not going to get the highest one. I'll give you a top 5 highest, and then you try and give me the top 5 lowest. Because the top 5 highest.
Well, I was going to say highest is normally like somewhere like Samoa or somewhere like that.
Oh, very close. Nauru.
Nauru, yes, because they as a culture they fetishize. No, fetishize is incorrect. They
glamorize
and appreciate a
lard,
a larger than life approach to life.
Yeah,
appreciate lard. So top 5.
So they're absolutely top, way ahead of everyone is now Nauru. Then Egypt, Afghanistan, North Macedonia, and Turkmenistan are the top 5.
North Macedonia, interesting. Okay.
Now,
so the bottom
5, I reckon you've got a chance with. I reckon one of them you'll get.
Well, I mean, instinctually, I'm going to go Mediterranean or Japan. So I'll go with Japan first.
Bang! That is the second lowest. Yeah. Second lowest, Mark.
Second lowest.
Yes.
Gosh.
I don't think you'll get top lowest. Top lowest is an outlier, I think, because it's not even barely a country.
What, Vatican City?
No, San Marino, close.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then I would have gone like, I don't know, Italy. They always seem like they don't have heart attacks.
Well, I mean, San Marino's Italy, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Close.
Yes.
Close. Begins with I.
I mean, lots of places. Israel?
Yep. Israel's number 3. Then Singapore. And then number 5 is France.
Yeah. Well done, them.
But yeah, I mean, we've long moved past the bucket these days, Mark, in terms of technology. And
we're very much in a post-bucket world, right?
Yes, yeah. And you can obviously display ball bags in HD now, however you like. There's many ways of testing hearts. I mean, it all depends on what the doctor wants to find and what he's particularly looking for. You've got angiograms, X-rays, ECGs, a myocardial perfusion scan, CT scan, echocardiogram, even an MRI you can do. I mean, all of these things, Mark.
Watching this segment is one of the few times where it really felt like this is a lot of what we watch. Obviously, is clearly in the past, but I suppose we glom onto the excitement of them discovering something new. This is one of the few times where I've watched something and gone like, "This is one step. This is just one step beyond like shadow puppets on a cave wall."
Okay, Mark, you clearly want to see something really high tech now. So let's watch this next segment. This next segment.
Jesus.
I sometimes wonder whether senior executives need plush officers because they're important or because it helps to make them feel important. But this surely has to be the office desk to solve any top man's problem, whatever it is. Imagine arriving in your office knowing that the keys to controlling your international empire are available to you at the press of a button. The first one brings up the in-tray, discreetly hidden at desk level, away from prying eyes. Push of one button delicately raises it to reveal the morning mail. Across on the other side of the desk, a few more buttons can quickly keep you in touch with your share values. Oh, very constructive day today. Whilst alongside a closed-circuit television screen will keep you aware of who's going to see you before you have to see them. Tell that gentleman I'm not available for the rest of the year. Incidentally, of course, a device like this is no excuse now for missing tomorrow's world because you were working late at the office. Excuse me? Hello? Message from the States. Well, that can go straight onto the telephone message machine, which will print out whatever is fed in at the other end as soon as I get things going. High-speed thermal printer, of course. working across telephone lines. Looks good. And if for any reason I have a message which is just too sensitive for anybody's eyes but mine, no problem. I can fit it into the built-in shredder at this end of the desk, reducing my secret documents to pieces that even the CIA would find difficult to put together. What's perhaps surprising about this collection of equipment is that it contains no dictation machine, no microcomputer, not even a tape unit for recording those Oval Office type interviews. But then the British firm who produced this are in the bespoke business. Whatever the customer wants, he can have, but no two desks will be the same. Tomorrow, this, their first order, will be dispatched to Abu Dhabi.
When we came up with the award for most notable piece of furniture, do you think we ever dreamt that our episode would feature a piece of furniture quite as notable as this absolute magnificent desk?
Not even in a madman's dreams, Russ, could this be envisaged.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? If I ever win the lottery, Mark, first thing I'm buying is one of these, I think. Obviously, I have to go to Abu Dhabi to claim it back.
You have to go to, I think it's pronounced Abu Dhabi.
Why is Abu Dhabi such a funny thing?
I don't know. It's not funny now. We're not laughing now.
Obviously, that desk is clearly for a very important person. But I'm just wondering, would it be inconvenient to have such a large desk to do all your work? You could fit 3 different people on that desk, and surely having to wheel your way across it all the time would actually get quite annoying. I'd prefer a desk that was more sort of horseshoe shaped around me, where I could reach everything. I think. You know what I mean?
I do. Neither of us, Russ, I think, constitute Rod's definition of top men. So I feel like we're never going to get one of these things. I certainly work in the public sector, and I don't think I've seen a desk like that around where in any of the places that I've worked. Even government departments don't have that kind of desk.
Not even pencil pushing bureaucrats with their snouts in the trough and their gold plated pensions.
No,
they haven't got desks. I thought they would all have desks like that, Mark.
Gravy train with biscuit wheels, Russ. Yeah, actually, the thing I really like though is that you can't tell whether Rod is being sarcastic or he's resentful, because I do like the fact that at the beginning he kind of introduces the segment. It's difficult for me not to imagine he's thinking of BBC executives, where he's basically implying that he doesn't know whether you have a big office because you're a top man, or you have a big office so you can look like a top man, whether the office follows the quality of topness or whether it's a trick of the eye, trompe l'oeil to kind of trick people. And basically, he's throwing BBC executives under the bus at the same time, clearly showing how resentful he is and how desperate he is to have a top man office and this kind of desk. It's peculiar. I feel like, once again, Michael Rod can't help but kind of reveal his psychopathy to us all. This time he didn't do it, he didn't do it under the guise of a song like he has done in the past.
No.
But desk envy.
I'd love to hear Michael sing a song about a desk. Yeah, should we go through the features of this absolute
please do. Yeah.
Wonderful thing? Obviously, so he starts off, the first feature is the inbox.
Yeah.
Which was it a push of one button delicately raises it to reveal the morning mail.
Yeah.
And it's very slow moving. That inbox is raising very slowly out of the desk.
It'll be lunchtime by the time it's up, right?
Just so you can look at your post. No indication how the post gets in there in the first place.
That was the thing.
Does the secretary come in earlier in the morning and put it in there and lower it?
Well, in order to kind of be able to put it in and then lower it, she'd have had to do at night time the amount of time. That's how long it takes to go down, I assume. And the thing about the inbox is that the inbox is supposed to be accessible for you to. It's not necessarily just post. It's documents that you have to sign or stuff that you have to review. When I first started working in Westminster, I had an inbox like on my desk where people would put stuff. And the whole point is that people could just put stuff there. It's like, okay, well, obviously now we have emails and stuff like that, but it's like the idea that you hide an inbox completely defeats the purpose of it. What is that? Explain to me a hidden inbox. You've passed the first test. You found the inbox. It's like that bit in Indiana Jones, isn't it, where he has the idol and the bit of sand. You have to kind of be able to, yeah.
And what is the benefit of an inbox that raises out of the table compared to, I don't know, a drawer?
Or just anything. I don't know, Russ. I don't know. Here's the thing: if you're, oh, it doesn't matter. What's next?
Then next, I believe he goes over and there's a calculator, like one of those large paper-fed calculators.
So you can check your stock.
Yeah,
your stock prices.
Then there's a lovely little bit where he's got the closed circuit television screen, and Prendiville is acting all shifty on the CCTV screen.
Yeah, shifty. That's the word.
I enjoyed that bit. There's a little bit of banter. I think Rod says something like, "Tell him I don't want to see him for the rest of the year" or something like that.
Yeah. Which is hilarious because it's
January. Yeah.
Though I will say he does say, "Oh, and then there'll be no excuse for you not to be able to watch Tomorrow's World." It's a closed circuit television, Rod, which means that it's not broadcast television. So unless you are the big boss in charge of Tomorrow's World watching a live feed from the studio, Rod, you ain't going to be able to catch it. At which point, you really should be paying attention to Tomorrow's World because you're in charge.
Or you could point the camera at a TV.
Oh, that's a good idea. But I doubt there's any sound, right?
Oh, yes, good point. Yeah. Then this is the most interesting bit, I think.
He gets a phone call.
Which he says is from America.
He does. He says from America.
He then pulls out what looks like a computer to me, but although
he doesn't pull it out, he presses a button and it comes out, Russ. Come on, he's a top man. There's no physical effort here, right? He's a white-collar worker, Russ.
Which what looks very much like a computer, like a BBC Micro or something like that, comes out.
Yeah.
But he claims, he later on says that this has no computer, so I don't know what this thing is. But the thing it has an extremely old school modem on it. The type which I last saw in the film Weird Science, where it's actually
war games, but
where it's actually you get the old-fashioned style phone and put it against two circular cups, and it just plays the sound down through the cups, and that's actually on that computer thing. So he doesn't say it's a modem because I don't think he knows it's a modem, but that's what it is. What does he call it? He calls it telephone messaging machine.
That's right. Yeah.
That then has a printer inside it, and the printer prints out a message which says...
From America?
Yes, well, presumably, because he said it's from America.
He's not a liar.
Yeah. And it says, "Hello, Michael. This is Emmanuel. What are we doing after the show?" This raises a lot of questions, Mark. You obviously immediately pointed out that if Emmanuel is in America, there's not a lot they can do after the show apart from maybe have a phone call.
Because I think at this point there are 17 minutes until the show ends, so I don't know what Emmanuel's planning.
I also surmised, is this a joke? Because obviously at the time, in the mid-70s to early 80s, the name Emmanuel would have been synonymous with the series of mucky French films, the first one which came out in 1974. So is the suggestion that the Emmanuel from the film is sending a suggestive message to Michael? Is that the idea? Is that like a cheeky little thing? Because he then says, "Oh, if you have any sensitive documents you don't want me to look at, you can then put them through the shredder." And then he puts the document through the shredder. So that's suggesting that he's getting this cheeky message from saucy Emmanuel, and then he wants to shred it so that no one... Am I making... Is that...
No, I don't know.
Is that stretched too far? Is that...
I don't think you wrote this in your notes, this particular theory. And actually, now that you've said it out loud, because the only way I was able to read the message, and even then half of it is out of focus, is because I have the ability to kind of scrub through it very, very slow motion.
And you've got that thing where you say, enhance. Like
enhance, yeah. Zoom in, left, enhance. What's behind that person? Enhance. You would not have read it. You would not have been able to read that on the in live. And I don't suppose in 1980, maybe one nerd was able to record the television. But even then, they would have been recording like a really low res version. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it was a joke, a joke thing. And because initially I assumed it was some kind of French guy who was working in New York and then you're absolutely right. It's definitely a woman. I think they're teasing Rod because I think they think he's a virgin.
Yeah, well, this is my thought. Because obviously that the Emmanuel films are not set in America, They're either set in France or I think
Africa.
I think the first one's set in Thailand.
She goes to Africa, right? Emmanuel in Africa.
Well, I was going to go into this actually, Mark.
But is that the one with James Bond, right?
But I reckon Rod has never seen an Emmanuel film, so he just assumes they're in America. So that's why he said that. Yeah, no, I was just going to actually quickly tell you about the Emmanuel films because I didn't quite realise what a cinematic powerhouse they were. So, first one based on a book that was published in the late 50s of the same name, 1974. Still to this day, one of the most successful French films of all time. Although Emmanuel herself is played by a woman called Sylvia Crystal, who was Dutch.
Oh, it's a Dutch angle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in total, they made 7 original Emmanuel films. This year, a reboot came out in September. Do you know that?
No, I did not know that.
No. There was also a video game in 1989, which I'm sure...
there wasn't.
Yeah, there was, yeah. Manual video game, 1989. I bet that was absolutely superb quality.
How are you supposed to masturbate to that?
It's art, Mark. It's art. What are you talking about?
Sorry, forgive me.
But for whatever reason, presumably because Emmanuel was a name or whatever, not been copyrighted. So it became shorthand, essentially. For any old person to put Emmanuel in the name of a film. So unofficial films, there's been 7 Emmanuel in space films,
Jeez.
7 Emmanuel 2000 films, 7 Emmanuel through time films, 7 Emmanuel private collection films.
Ooh.
I don't know why they're all 7. There's no explanation for that.
Yeah,
it must be just,
right?
Yeah, it's obviously that
nature just likes it.
Each time the story just reaches its natural end.
It's
after 7
natural
episodes.
crescendo.
Yeah. However, there's been 11, which rhymes with 7, Black Emmanuel films.
That's also a prime number, Russ.
Yes. Weirdly, Black Emmanuel is not black. She's actually Indonesian Dutch. Then there's been a supplementary 29 other films with Emmanuel in the title, as well as apart from that, all various places, countries, and things like that. So that's 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 53, 73, 82 different films about Emmanuel plus 1 video game.
I have one and one only experience of an Emmanuel film, and that was in 1999. Myself and my friend Jackie, we went to a 48-hour film festival at the Prince Charles Cinema in London, and it is exactly what you bought a ticket and you had a seat for 48 hours of back to films. And the highlights were the premiere on the first night. It was the premiere of Sixth Sense. And then on the second night, the premiere was Blair Witch. And in between, it was obviously it's a rep cinema. So it's the first time I saw on the big screen, I saw Goodfellas and Apocalypse Now and lots of other great films. And we both looked at the agenda, the itinerary, saw Emmanuel in Africa, thought, that's where we're going to go to sleep. So I think it starts on a plane, and I feel like she's next to, what's his name, the Australian James Bond.
Paul Hogan?
No. From on Her Majesty's
George
Secret
Lazenby.
Service,
George Lazenby.
Cheeky bastard. Yeah, I think she's on the film to George Lazenby. Sorry, I think she's on the plane. I think she's next to George Lazenby, but I don't know. Because I was asleep. I slept through Emmanuel in Africa. That is my one and only experience of 82 films. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a bit like
don't check my maths, but it's at least 82.
No. Because I was just thinking, it's a bit like, well, Debbie is a name, so obviously the sequel to, you could have a spin-off and like Debbie does Dunstable and
Debbie Doncaster.
Debbie does Doncaster and
Dulwich.
stuff like that.
And,
Debbie in space. Yeah,
Dundee.
That's mad.
Yeah. I was very surprised. Yeah, maybe I'll go and see the reboot. It might be quite good. Who knows?
Well, I mean, the fact that we haven't heard of it probably means it's really great, right?
Yeah, I've got Microsoft Game Pass. I might see if they've got the video game on there. Do you think the 1989 Emmanuel video game is as good as the Ball Bag Invader computer game that they're playing in the hospital?
I suspect it's probably more like. Do you reckon it's a text-based game, or is it more like kind of Leisure Suit Larry?
Yeah, like a point and click.
Point and click, yeah. Yeah, maybe Texas, but it's definitely point and click though, right?
Yeah. Well, from point and click to clunk and click, Mark.
I was going to say to pointless, but go on then.
Well, if the latest rise in the price of petrol isn't keeping you awake at night, the cost of your next garage bill probably will. So, tonight we're going to look at some different ways in which the professional and amateur mechanic can save time and money. Well, here's one idea for a start. Let's just look at this typical bill. For removing and replacing the engine assembly on a van like this, that's taking the engine out and putting it back again, £42. That's without parts. It's all labour charges. And part of the reason for a bill like that is that it can take so long to get at the parts you want to repair or replace. That's oil filters, diesel pipes and that sort of thing. And to take this engine out would normally take about 4 or 5 hours. Well, you had a creeping glance of Ray Jones there earlier, so let's introduce him now. He's the owner of this van. Hello, Ray. And you reckon you can get that engine out in a lot less than 4 hours?
Yes, 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Less than 3 minutes.
OK, well, let's start the clock. Best of luck, Ray. In fairness, I should say, by the way, that Ray has already disconnected the exhaust. He's got a quick release system for that too. But for this demonstration, we'll concentrate on the engine.
Yet another bill for adjusting wheel alignment, £5.25. That's bad news, but it's not a service to be skimped on, because if the front wheels are not parallel when the car's being driven, it's dangerous and expensive on tyres and petrol. So you've got to get it right. And garages traditionally do the job with this. It's called an optic wheel alignment gauge. Believe me, it's complicated. There's no way that I can do it, even with instruction. But I can do it with this new, very clever piece of equipment. It's really simple. There's a gauge here which is on 0 at the moment, but if the tyres are out of line either way, the gauge will prove it. So what you do is you put it down in front of the tyre with the gauge to 0, and there's a piece of wood just here helping me to line it up correctly. Now, checking that gauge is in the right place, I'll just push it back, and you'll notice when I do that there's a balance plate on the other side. I think somebody's left the handbrake on. I don't think I can move it back. But never mind, I'm going to test it out now, and I'll take that handbrake off. Now, doing it this way should give a far more realistic assessment, because the other method, you do it when the car's stationary, and you do it with no one in the car. But this way, it's got my weight, and it's going to be on the move. So reverse it first of all, then we'll go forward and try it. There, we're over it now. So how is it reading? Well, as in fact I knew, the wheels are far from correct, so it's moved away from 0. So this car obviously needs adjustment, proved in the only position that can be really accurate under a moving tyre.
Here's another pain in the wallet. To fit 2 new tyres, £49. Well, OK, it's bound to happen sooner or later, but if I kept the right pressure in the old ones, they'd last a lot longer and be a good deal safer too. The problem, though, is that even if I try to keep the right pressure in them, I can't be sure that the air pressure gauge in whatever garage I go to is going to be accurate. Some experts reckon there can be £3 a square inch out either way. Well, here's a device. Oh, and before I go on, I think that Ray has finished pulling out his engine in 2 minutes 25, but we'll come back to Ray in a second. Because now we're going to move on to a device that controls electronically the exact pressure that I want in my tyres. And the makers say that at the most it will only be out by 0.25 pounds a square inch. So what I do is select the pressure I want on these touch buttons here, and what I want is 24, so press the 20 and the 4. Now once I connect the airline, the rest is automatic. And the reason, by the way, that I'm going to the back wheel is because often you can't see the reading from here. With this system, it doesn't really matter because you can hear it. I'll put it in. Now, the air pressure is raised 1 pound a square inch above the target I've keyed into. And this is released in pulses till we hit exactly what I want. And there's the audible signal to prove it. Any problems? Well, you probably have to pay for this service, and normally pressure gauges, of course, are free. But one thought put forward by the company concerned is that if all the world's cars ran with precise tyre pressures at all times, around 3.5 million gallons of petrol could be saved a day.
Now what? This bill again. This time for bleeding brakes, and that costs £6.30. And again, that has to be done, because when air bubbles get into the brake fluid, your brakes just get spongy and unsafe. Now, it is possible to get rid of them yourself, with the help of a jam jar, of course, and your best friend, or at least someone who's prepared to sit in there and pump the brake pedal while you grope around under here, where you can take out the fluid. Now that's no longer possible, just because of this. 4 metres of fine-bore plastic tube, much narrower than usual. Now, when we look here at the inside of the wheel, you'll see where it is that you have to bleed the brakes. There's something called a bleed nipple just here. So push on the rubber tubing and then fix it safely in place with this special retaining strap. Then you've got enough tube here, which I can show on the one that's been fixed up to the car, to actually get in there, get your foot on the brake pedal, and while you're doing that, you can actually watch the brake fluid yourself as it comes along the tube, along with those air bubbles. Let's catch one. There's one there. There's some more moving along there. So you can see, while you're pumping your brakes, all those air bubbles moving along. And this narrow tube's particularly good for the job, because unlike the wider ones normally used, it stops air bubbles backtracking into the system just where you don't want them. So it's efficient, do it yourself. And yet another bill saved.
Well, congratulations, Ray. 2 minutes, 25 seconds. What took you so long?
Yes.
Anyway, well done. Now, all that took was a standard wheel brace like this to turn these winch fittings to pull the whole thing out. Now, as you can see, the engine and the gearbox are completely exposed. Normally, the vehicle would have to be jacked up and the front axle removed. Now, what Ray has designed and built himself is this box frame made of 2.5-inch mild steel. Strong, but not too heavy. Now, that supports the engine and the gearbox, which can be quickly disconnected. The various systems, the electrics, pneumatic and cooling, as well as these fuel lines here, have been extended like this. It means the whole lot can slide forwards and backwards on the frame, and it could be worked hydraulically. Tonight, we've just extended the frame, but a few more cranks on the wheel brace, and we could have the whole engine out. Well, Ray could anyway. Now, if you ran a business and decided to keep a spare engine in running order for your van or vans, you could have that one back in place in less than half an hour. That's some going and could save a lot of money in repair bills.
Now, Mark, before we start, do you just want to watch that again?
Do I fuck? Oh, my God, Russell. Do you know what? There was a part of me watching that, because the first time round, I don't like car segments at the best of times. But when Kieran said that Ray Jones could have this engine out in 3 minutes, my response was, 3 minutes? We're going to have to watch this for 3 minutes? little did I know, that wasn't even the halfway mark, Russ. This is interminable. What the hell is this?
What I was
Does it finish? Are we still watching it, Russ? If you told me we were still watching it right now, you could convince me.
What popped in my head just now, Mark, because I was watching that, it only occurred to me then, is collateralized debt obligations, right? So, you know, the whole thing of the financial crisis was that what they were doing was they were taking...
Yes.
We've all seen The Big Short.
Yeah.
They were taking one fairly healthy financial instrument and then just packing loads of toxic
credit
stuff into it.
Yeah.
That's basically what this segment is, isn't it? They've got a reasonably exciting looking van and a man doing like record breakers, and then they've just packed a load of car inventions that they couldn't possibly do a segment about on their own into this framework of a man changing the engine of his car on his van.
I could not disagree with your with how you've explained that more, Russ. The idea they've packed anything into this is a dereliction of duty to the audit time code of conduct that we've all signed up to. B, if they had genuinely done all those things and then finished when Ray had pulled the engine out, you'd be onto something there. but it continues for another 50%.
I think because Ray does it too quickly, doesn't he? That's the problem.
Well,
they expect him to do it. They expect him to do it in 3 minutes.
Yeah, but the segment lasts 7.5 minutes, Russ. Because I think I timed it because I just could not believe how long it was. But then the other thing is, like, there are no inventions in there's no real inventions in this, and you know there's no inventions that they're excited about because they try and sell this as a way of saving money. This is a Watchdog or This Life segment dressed up as Tomorrow's World. It is desperate. It is quite pathetic. It pissed me off. It's making me angry now. But because they're basically saying like, oh, cars are so expensive, and unjustifiably. But they don't even sell it. It's like, we're going to show you how to save some money. It is so badly put together. Because the segment you describe, Russ, is the one that works. But then that leaves them with 4.5 minutes of TV show that they have to fill, and having seen what's to come and having seen what's been and knowing what's to come, they have nothing. There is nothing. They have no choice but to drag this out for as long as possible. They are. Ray Jones, after he shakes Kieran's hand, and it's nice that Kieran, no doubt an Oxbridge grad, shakes hands with a blue-collar worker. We were both laughing at the fact that Ray Jones then kind of sprints off stage. Yeah. He wasn't sprinting off stage. They were dragging him off stage. Ugh. It's awful. It's dreadful. This is dreadful. And even you as a car lover, I know you enjoyed seeing the cars.
Yeah, I love the cars.
This is awful, right?
Yeah, awful. This is... Yeah, it's like a bag of bits, really, isn't it? This is the third sequence.
Spin special, right?
This is the third segment where we've got to go through a series of different things in the same thing. Things in the same thing. You know what I mean?
Moments, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Pick the bones out of this one, really. So first of all, the van, Ray's van, is a lovely Bedford CF panel van, the rival
to the lovely van.
Rival to the Ford Transit. It was the British version of the A-Team van, basically, made by General Motors. But torn from today's headlines, Mark, the very factory that would have built that van, the closure of it was announced mere 3 days ago. So once again, the curse of Tomorrow's World strikes, as it so commonly does, Mark. Interestingly, that very model of van, do you know what Hollywood movie it's in? 2002?
So the film came out in 2002. And
it's an American film, Mark, starring famous actress of the time. I was a big fan.
No, I don't know. What is it?
Scooby-Doo. It's what they what they make the Mystery Machine out of. Interestingly, they don't.
Could it have been anything else?
They don't. Yeah, they don't use an American van in that. They use a Bedford, which I didn't know. I've never actually seen that Scooby-Doo film. It was also sold in Europe by Opel as the Opel Blitz, which is a bit insensitive, considering Opel's a German company.
Yeah.
But I was wondering. So Kieran seems disgusted that a regular engine swap would cost £42, which to me, even in 1980 prices, sounds cheap to me. I mean, to take out an entire engine and put, I'm not obviously the cost of the engine's not included, but the amount of labour that must,
Well, that's the thing. Like he's graceful enough to admit that the majority of the cost is labour, i.e., it is a specialist skill.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I was joking about him being Oxbridge earlier because I don't think he was. I think he's a bit more complicated than that. But there is a kind of a middle class patronising quality. It's like, well, it can't cost. How much effort does it really? You can't do it, Kieran. That's why you've gone to a specialist. Engines are not supposed to fall out of cars. They are supposed to be difficult to come out. So yes, it does take time and stuff like that. I found that whole thing also like. Whatever cataclysmic problem has happened to your car that they need to remove the engine, the £42 to remove the engine is probably going to be the least of your worries. Your MOT does not require the engine to be juggled out of the car.
Yeah. They reckon typically it takes about 10 to 12 hours to swap an engine in terms of labour time. And these days, a mechanic's going to charge you between 80 and 120 quid an hour. So it would cost you about 800 to 1,500 quid to get an engine swapped. So Ford, I don't know what... I mean,
£42 ain't bad,
£42 ain't bad.
Yeah.
Speaking of 42, though, Mark...
Oh, yeah.
I found this episode of Record Breakers... And this record still stands, even though it's 1985. This is the fastest an engine has ever been changed. And the rule is the car's got to start, then they got to take the engine out, put another engine in, and then the car's got to start and drive across the finish line to prove that it's all been fitted.
That's incredible.
And here we go.
Are you all set, lads? Okay, start the car up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Now! Out! Up! Come on, down! Up! Down! Hey! All right, it's in. On! Ready! And up! Okay. Woo! Whoa! Oh, I don't believe it!
Fantastic. We have a time of 42 seconds on our hands.
42 seconds!
The old world record.
So you are, in fact, engine-changing record breakers.
That's incredible. Shove that up your Bedford, Roy. That's incredible.
Yeah. And that's obviously
astonishing.
That's a pretty standard Ford Escort rather than a specially converted van. I mean, the only thing is that I don't think Ford Escort bonnets come off quite that easily as that one did. But yeah, that's
also
pretty impressive.
To be fair to Ray, isn't it? He is doing it on his own. And he's not a Marine.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So we've got anyway. Ray's set off on this needless, fruitless, pointless exercise, which doesn't prove anything because it's his own van. It's not like Bedford have invented this new van. So I'm not sure what. I mean, it's a ticking clock.
I was going to say on that. Sorry, you made such a good observation in the notes that would not have occurred to me. He has made whatever system it is that allows him to slide out the engine. This is not a Bedford invention. And there is absolutely no way that van is now street legal. Because that is going to mow down and kill countless people if he ever accidentally crashes it. I hadn't even thought about that, but he has just made that a potential death trap.
He's completely reinforced the engine into a steel cage. So he's essentially invented a high-speed battering ram. It will tear through other cars like butter. It's like basically a Mad Max vehicle at this point. It could go ram raiding in it now.
Yeah.
It's an astonishing sort of dereliction of safety. I can only hope that that's some sort of demonstration vehicle. It never actually drives on the road, but So anyway, we then go over to Judith, who's standing next to an absolutely beautiful Mark I Volkswagen Scirocco there. I did check. That's no longer on the road. So I checked the DVLA database because there was the number plates there. It's no longer on the road. It only lasted 10 years on the road. That shows how bad cars were back then. They really didn't.
The wheels were unaligned. So,
yeah, exactly. They really didn't last. Interestingly, Mark, that car was designed by the legendary Italian designer Giorgetto Gigaro. Do you know what other car? Well, he designed thousands of other cars, but looking at a Volkswagen Scirocco, even you, I'm sure, by the shape of it, could guess what famous car he designed.
Testarossa?
No, the DeLorean, Mark. He designed the DeLorean.
Oh, no! Did he do the DeLorean?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I think the Scirocco looks like a more sort of basic DeLorean, don't you think? No?
I do see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. I suppose I just probably associate an Italian designer with something a bit more exotic. Did I ever tell you the story about my dad working with the finance director at DeLorean? I may have even mentioned it on an
I think you have mentioned it. Yes, yeah.
One of the few times my dad came back going like, this guy is dodgy and dangerous. And my dad did not particularly mind hanging out with dodgy, dangerous people if it suited him. But he came back and he wasn't quite ashen-faced, but it was like, yeah, he was definitely unsettled.
This guy went back and threatened me when I was a teenager. But
said my name was Calvin Klein.
Other things Giugiaro designed, the Volkswagen Golf, the Fiat Panda, the Fiat Uno, loads of Italian supercars. Roger Moore's style Lotus he did. But interestingly, also did Nikon cameras, Beretta guns, Seiko watches, a cathedral pipe organ, and this is the most Italian thing ever. Look at the bottom of our document. He invented a whole new shape of pasta. In 1984, he invented a whole new shape of pasta called Marile. I think he was trying to... you can see what he's going for there. He's trying to get extra sauce on it by giving it a little ridged quality. Complete failure, apparently. No one wanted it. Very difficult to get a consistent al dente cook on it. So didn't do as well as his cars did. But yeah, and then so this wheel alignment thing, Mark. I mean, how often do you need your wheels aligned? I looked. I mean, the absolute maximum people have recommended is once a year. Like when you get your MOT done, they go maybe get your wheels aligned. I mean, saw some people saying you probably only need to get it done every 3 years unless you hit a big pothole. But I mean, it's all something you could just include in your yearly service. So it's not really something you need to do at home. If you ever do want to get it done, you can go to Halfords. Halfords will do it for you for £50. You can buy wheel alignment things these days. You can't buy this thing that Judith's got because it looks crap, doesn't it? It's just
Yeah, you're right. It's really unimpressive. Sorry, I'm muting myself because I'm eating a whole bowl of popcorn, Russ, and I just don't want to go.
Yeah, the only interesting part about that is Judith tries to push the car herself. Was she able to push the car during rehearsals? Because I don't think... I mean, you have to overcome inertia to push a car, and she's just trying to lean against it to push it. I just don't know whether that's even possible. But she seems surprised that she can't do it.
She does seem surprised, which is why I assume she must have been able to do it in rehearsals.
Is she uncommonly strong, do you think, Judith? Maybe she is. She looks like she might be.
I wonder if, because just after she gets in the car, a mysterious figure appears on the right of the screen, moves a block of wood, or kind of a length of wood, and I wonder if in rehearsals the car was on the wood, allowing you to push it off the wood.
Yeah, maybe.
Which would then have the kind of momentum that would mean that she could push it back or something like. But then also it's like it's a car. Why are you pushing it anyway? It can you're gonna have to drive it over the whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. Anyway, this thing's rubbish. You obviously these days you can get yourself a laser powered tyre aligner for home use. About £60 it'll cost you if you buy one online. And then what do we go next? Oh yeah, still on the subject of wheels and tyres. We go to Kieran again. This time he's showing us the most amazing invention, Mark. It's
incredible, Russ.
It's one of those tyre inflators that is in literally every petrol station in the world. Well, not in the world, but certainly in the Western world. It would set you back. I think they're €1 over here. I think they're £1 at home. Unless you go to, I think some places do it free, but not so much these days. You know what money grabbing bastards they are these days. But yeah, it's just an electric tyre pump with a digital readout that goes up to the amount that you ask it to. Brilliant.
Hooray!
I suppose it's a real labour saver. If that's the first time that's been invented, then it's a labour saver, isn't it?
Do you know what? Here's the thing, right? Let's politely describe that as the meat in the sandwich. If that had been a separate segment where they had gone into detail and explained how difficult it was to sort out tyre pressures, but because of this new invention that's going to be rolled out, you'd see it in all the forecourts in the next few years, I would go like, oh yeah, that was really interesting and it's good to see something start. But because this is in this segment, couldn't give a flying F, Russ. Don't care. I don't care. I don't care. In fact, I think I said that at the bottom of it. I don't care about whether tyres are aligned. I don't care about brake fluid. Sorry, spoiler alert. I don't care about Bedford van engine. I don't care. I don't care.
The weird thing is that the cost of changing tyres has barely gone up, because he says
Ooh.
Kieran says, I think he says 40 quid for the pair or something like that.
Which I thought sounded perfectly fine.
These days, it'll only cost you 50 quid per tyre, which is obviously more, but compared to the engine swap increase, it's not.
Yeah.
And then we go back, Judith. Right, this is the one that I don't understand, Mark. So,
well, if you don't understand it, I don't know how I'm ever going to have it.
So obviously, I understand the concept of bleeding the brakes. The brakes are hydraulic. When you change your brake fluid, you have to make sure there's no air in the system, because if there's air in this, because air in the system, air is compressible, unlike liquid. So if you've got an air bubble in the system, you try and put your brakes on, the bubble compresses rather than the brakes compressing. You crash into an antelope
Dangerous,
or whatever.
Right? Yeah, dangerous. I get that. I understand.
Run over a playground full of children, whatever.
Oh my God! Especially in that Bedford van, right?
So when you change your brake fluid, you have to make sure you bleed the brakes, get rid of all the air bubbles. She points out that this can be done with a jam jar and a piece of pipe. She then tells us what this great new invention is, and I'm thinking, I wonder what that could be. Some sort of automatic bubble remover or something like that. No,
sounds right.
No, it's not. All it is a longer piece of pipe. That's all. That is all. So that rather than your friend looking for the bubbles in the piece of pipe while you pump the brake pedal, or you looking in the pipe while they pump the brake pedal, your friend can stay in the pub because you can now connect a longer piece of pipe, which you can then see from the driving position as you're pumping the brake pedal. That's not an invention. That's just a longer piece of pipe, Mark. That's not.
Yeah. Nope.
That's madness that's on the programme. It's just a longer piece of pipe. Pipe can be any length you like.
Any thinness or diameter that you choose. Absolutely, Russ. I didn't get this one. Because initially when she starts talking about it, it was almost getting to the point where the jam jar pipe technique doesn't work anymore. And I almost thinking big car has changed the way brakes work and blah, blah, blah. So you can't do this. And no, you're absolutely right. It was just I've got a longer, thinner pipe.
Yeah.
So I don't. Do you know what? I think it's I do appreciate it's important, but what the fuck is this?
She also makes a mistake there because she said, and I think that's where you thought that was the case, because she says when she talked about the old way with the jam jar, she says now that's no longer possible.
That was it. Yeah. She says no longer possible. Thinking big.
I think she's meant to say that's no longer necessary.
That makes sense.
That's what she meant to say, because the process she's showing is still bog standard brake bleeding. It's just she's using a longer pipe. So she must mean no longer necessary or no longer possible. That doesn't help the fact that it's the most terrible thing I've seen on.
Well, I mean, I certainly know what's not necessary, Russ.
And then then we go back to Ray, and as we've already discussed, the reveal of his psychotic killing machine of a vehicle, and just leaves it in Kieran's hands. And we've learned very little, Mark, I would say, really.
No, I disagree. I think I learned a lot about myself, Russ. Yeah. I definitely I learned. Yeah, I learned where my line is, how much I'm willing to tolerate in others. Yeah, I think it was a profound moment for me. I don't know about you.
Right. Well, nearly there, Mark. Nearly there.
This material is both fascinating and frightening. This is oxide of plutonium. If I was to breathe any of its dust and expose my lungs to its radiation, it could be fatal. And yet, this material has the strange ability to produce both intense heat and more plutonium if it's used as the fuel in a fast nuclear reactor. When the time comes to remove the fuel from the reactor, less than 10% of it will have been consumed. The rest will still be in there, waiting to be reclaimed. And it's here that process takes place. That plopping sound is a constant indication that the radiation monitors here at Dounreay are working perfectly. Because although substantial advances have been made here in our understanding of this element, the handling of the hot fuel as it comes from the reactor is still done with the greatest of care. In a few weeks' time, that process will happen here, and this will become possibly the most dangerous room in Britain. Right now, all the equipment is being exhaustively tested. The hexagonal sub-assemblies that hold the fuel rods in the reactor core are opened, and one by one, each spent fuel pin is extracted. Inside the pins will be the plutonium that needs to be recovered. Each pin is carefully manipulated onto rollers that are powered by compressed air, which push the pins into an automatic chopper where they're clipped into 1-inch open-ended sections. All this equipment is made of corrosion-resistant stainless steel, but as each spent fuel pin is cut open, radioactive material will spill out onto the metal surfaces, and the whole room will become contaminated. Of course, all this machinery is automatic or very remotely controlled. For when this is all working, no human being could survive inside here. This is the kind of room that one imagines would need to be walled up forever. But strangely, this place has rather a long history. What's unusual about this cave, as it's called, is that we are here at all. 10 years ago, this was a sealed, forbidden area. As part of Dounreay's original fuel line, there was enough radiation here to fry me and the camera crew within 3 minutes. But this area wasn't bricked up and forgotten about. Working very slowly, under carefully monitored conditions, a team opened up this cave and decontaminated the structure and the equipment by washing, scrubbing, hosing away the radioactive particles, and any pieces of equipment which had themselves become radioactive were isolated. Today, the level of radiation in this once exceedingly hostile atmosphere is well within permitted safety levels. Make no mistake, radiation is still a serious danger, and when that new line starts operating, it too will be safely sealed away, just as this doorway has already been bricked up. Behind here, those 1-inch sections of spent plutonium fuel will be dissolved in acid. Here, in a series of solutions, the plutonium will be extracted, ready to be used again. The technique has not overcome the problems of radiation. Decommissioning the fuel line has simply transferred the problem from the equipment to the waste which the team brought out of the cave. But what it has illustrated is that areas once highly radioactive need not necessarily be lost for generations, entombed behind protective steel and concrete. The next project here at Dounreay is to decontaminate the famous golf ball, the very heart of the world's first fast nuclear reactor to provide electricity to a national grid, will one day become a museum, open to all of us.
Well, I don't know about you, Russ, but I cannot wait to go to the Dounreay Golf Ball Nuclear Reactor Museum that we've just been promised, Russ. When are we going, big guy? Hey?
Well, we need to tick it off our list, don't we, Mark? Because obviously we are renowned connoisseurs of former nuclear
we are indeed
sites. It would be fascinating to visit that big...
Compare and contrast? Yeah.
That big golf ball and compare it with our previous exploits. I wonder how radioactive Rod is, because he seems to get quite a lot of radioactive assignments, doesn't he?
Mm.
Do you think it's because his name's Rod? And, they use rods in nuclear... They've got nuclear rods, haven't they?
I'd like to think that, but I think both you and I do have a pet theory, which is that for most of his time on Tomorrow's World, they were bullying him. So I suspect that they just sent him there because it's bullying. Go on, Rod. You go there.
Dounreay. I must be fairly bleak. It's one of those things where you think, everyone tells you that nuclear stuff is very safe. But then they've clearly deliberately cited it on the most remote point of UK mainland.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it is absolutely right at the very, very top of Scotland on the coast.
If anything,
there.
Russ, it's that remote because it's too safe.
Yeah, is that what it is?
It'll confuse people. Yeah.
I mean, if Britain was a firework, it would literally be where you'd put the fuse. That's that's where it is. Obviously, we love radiation, Mark.
Mm.
But I'm not sure what the hook of this. I guess it's not very specific. This thing, is it? He's just kind of just wandering around doing radio, just showing us bits and pieces.
With a bit of hindsight, this is very similar to the heart disease one earlier, where the innovation in the heart one was the utilization of a special yellow bucket. This one is a very long segment. It's not very long. It's a long enough segment, but actually the only innovation is that they've scrubbed clean this room. That's it. Which, to be fair, is not nothing. And we do see there is an insert shot of about 10 seconds where you see a guy kind of manipulating robot arms, and he's literally using this incredible rig of robotic arms. He's got his hands and he's pulling all the levers, and you see it with a little kind of jiffy cloth, just kind of rubbing something clean, which is like that's interesting, but it's not that interesting.
No.
And he really tries to dress it up by implying a level of danger that is clearly not there. It's a bit of a sales pitch for not a lot. Now, it may well be, but like he's trying to kind of create a sense of edge. But the fact that he's in these spaces means that there isn't one. I don't know. I don't think it's a weird segment because I don't think I learned anything.
One thing I did learn is that Rod is more flexible than I gave him credit for.
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. He can do something I can't.
Because he does the absolute maverick manoeuvre of presenting to us while squatting on a desk. Well, I'm not sure why. What's on the... If he's playing a game of off-ground it, or what's on the floor? Why can't he stand on the floor? Is there no room? Or is he worried about it being radioactive? I don't know. But for some reason or other, he's addressing us while in a full squat atop a work surface.
No, let's not call it a work surface, Russ. Let's stay on brand. Let's stay on theme. He's on a desk.
It's a third notable desk environment of the episode. This is unprecedented desk action. Yeah. I mean that fascinated me, and also obviously the other thing that fascinated me is the concept of the everything's okay alarm. Which sounds like, I mean, it's interesting. They've obviously decided to try and find a noise which isn't annoying too much, that is noticeable but not annoying. Because I guess if you're working in there and you have to have the everything's okay alarm on all the time, it couldn't be, I know, for example, like Homer Simpson's one, which I'm going to play now just for all I can.
Now, here's my everything's okay alarm. This will sound every 3 seconds unless something isn't okay.
Turn it off, Homer.
It can't be turned off. But it does break easily.
Weirdly, Homer works in a nuclear power plant, so presumably he should know the everything okay alarm is a thing already. Bloop. But yeah, so have they chosen that like forlorn clip clop as a noise which is audible but not annoying? Do you think is that they did testing?
I'd say so, because like it's not, because it's not it isn't annoying. If they have put a lot of effort into designing the sound, then they've done a really good job, because what you don't want is some kind of sound that slowly chips away at your self of sense, your sense of self rather, and your kind of your ability to survive, which some noises do, right? A lot of people live in towns and cities, and sometimes there are noises around you that just chip away at you, and there's nothing left, and that's not one of them. And even when we went to Schnubble, there were noises, but they were kind of you definitely kind of felt safe hearing them, I suppose. I don't know, it's peculiar. Yeah, there must be an entire science. Here's a segment I do want to see.
What?
The science of like non-annoying noises that people find soothing to relay some kind of safety.
Yeah,
that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
That's why the sound of
is it too late to suggest something to the BBC? It might be too late, actually.
Blackstad's dead, Mark. I was wondering. Obviously, when we went to Chernobyl, there was that one fella with a Geiger counter, wasn't there? He had his own Geiger counter.
The annoying Australian guy, yeah.
And I thought, I wonder if there's any Black Friday deals on Geiger counters.
Russell, what have you done?
And there is.
Yep.
On Amazon, there's a Black Friday deal on the GQ GMC 800 core radiation detector. It was €99. It's now €84. There's a 15% reduction at the moment.
Wow, crikey! So how many have you bought?
There's also actually the cheapest one you can get. You can get a pen Geiger counter. Well, it's called a pen. It looks like one of those digital pregnancy testers.
Okay.
€40 that'll cost you.
Wow.
I can't imagine I'd need. I mean, would you need anything more than that?
I mean, where I live, no.
No.
Not being some kind of nuclear scientist, no, I don't think so. And I'd like to think that if I did need one, I'd be provided with one.
So I will tell you about Dunray.
Please do.
Obviously, as I said, it's north coast of the Scottish Highlands, built in the 1950s, back in the heyday of Britain's atomic age. There's actually two sites there. There was a civilian site and a military site. So the civilian site was obviously, they were investigating what's called fast breeder reactors that were going to use for making power. And then the military site was looking into the nuclear reactors to put in nuclear submarines. Ended up being owned by Rolls-Royce, the aero engine company. But the civilian site had 3 reactors and the military site had 2 reactors. Obviously, we know more about the civilian site because it's not secretive. They actually, in the 80s and 90s, you could go on guided tours of the facility. But the visitor centre was there's an air traffic control tower there because it used to be an airfield. So it was in there. It was not in the golf ball. The golf ball was highly radioactive, Mark. You can't possibly put a visitor centre in there.
Of course.
Rod's a lunatic.
What's he on about?
They got the fast reactor running in 1959, and it was supplying the national grid with electricity between 1962 and 1977, and it supplied 540 million kilowatts of electricity in that time. And that reactor only cost £15 million to build, which in modern money is £370 million.
Which is
now compare that.
Yeah.
Sizewell C.
Sizewell C, right?
Projected
60, 70, 80 billion. What's it up to now?
Well, they're saying between 20 and 30 billion, but we all know that we double that and add half. But obviously, it's none of the reactors are running there at Dunray anymore. It's all being decommissioned. They have been reprocessing nuclear fuel there for quite a long time, since it opened. And that's obviously what Rod's showing us there, the getting the rods and clipping them up and putting them in acid and all that malarkey. They actually stopped doing that in 1998. And they decided they didn't want to do that there anymore because they got better facilities at Sellafield. So they actually shipped all the rest of their nuclear waste over to Sellafield. That must have been a very careful job, mustn't it? Transporting that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, yeah. Because actually, that was the that was the one we saw last. I suppose last time we saw this because it used to be Windscale, right, Sellafield, and we saw the reclamation or whatever it is, the fuel reclaiming site at Windscale in an old episode.
Yes, and also I believe we talked about the safety of Windscale at the time.
Yes,
Dunray, impressively relaxed attitude to safety. Not had any major disasters, but just clearly at one point did not give a monkey's. There's this one particular when they were building it, they had to build a water outlet pipe for the hot water to go out into the sea, and in order to build that pipe, they had to dug a 65-meter deep shaft down into the ground, and all that was meant to be was so they could build this pipe. The people running Dunray Power Station decided that this 65-meter pipe would now be where they just would basically be like under the carpet. They would, wherever they had any problems, they'd just chuck it down this pipe. So they ended up with this 65-meter deep pipe full of absolute radioactive crap, which none of it was meant to be in there. And apparently there was a situation where they'd have to send workers in there with air rifles. There would be like plastic bags floating in it, and they'd go send them in there with air rifles to shoot the plastic bags so they'd sink in the water. But at one point, they packed it so much with radioactive stuff. They also ended up putting in 2 kilograms of sodium and potassium in there. Right?
Even I know.
And I mean, what's that? It's like it's the first lesson at school, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, in chemistry. is what happens when water hits sodium or potassium. So they built a giant radioactive firework. They stuffed it with radioactive material, put 2 kilos of explosive metal in there, and then let seawater leak into it with a concrete and steel lid on it. It completely blew the top off it and just covered the whole area in radioactive material.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Amazing.
Almost admirable.
Yeah, that happened in 1977 anyway. Anyway, so 2005, Nuclear Decommissioning Authority took it over. They're doing all this scrubbing work, cleaning all of this stuff, trying to decommission. They're trying to bring it back down so it becomes a brownfield site. So they need to dismantle everything and scrub everything and try and get rid of as much radiation as possible. Their work will be finished in 2036, they reckon now, their estimate. Do you know, well, you don't know, but can you guess what year the site will be able to be built on? Like they'll be able to go, give it all clear and go, this site is now, you can build anything on it. It's all fine.
So say again, when do they start?
So they started in 2005. They will finish dismantling the whole thing, and it will be a clear site by 2036. They reckon.
2036.
But,
when will it be?
But when will it be decontaminated enough in terms of radiation so they can actually just like build a hospital on it or whatever they want to do, build on it, primary school,
an orphanage.
Yeah.
Oh my god. At least 100 years. 2136.
Nearly 2336.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow. That's an ambitious aim, isn't it?
Yeah. And the golf ball, Mark.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there will never be a visitor centre in there because they got permission. Even though it is a local landmark, they got permission to dismantle it, and it's either going to be next year or the year after that they will dismantle that golf ball. And interestingly, in a bizarre connection to last month's episode, it turns out, I was talking about the robot dog Spot.
Yeah.
Just last year, they sent Spot the robot dog into the golf ball. And you can see this photo at the bottom, this artist's rendition.
I was about to say, this is not a real photo, but nonetheless.
They sent him into the golf ball to scan the interior and take samples and take radiological data, just so they know exactly what to do when they're dismantling it. And I did see somebody on Reddit, I obviously see the ball's a bit rusty at the back there. I did see somebody on Reddit suggest that the golf ball looks like it shat itself.
I was going to say, there's a very famous video of a Scottish guy. I think he's either at a wedding or he's away at the football, mooning people and revealing that he had crapped himself, and that's what that looks like.
Yeah, so that's Doonray. It's one of those words you can't help but say it in a Scottish accent.
Doonray.
Yeah,
Doonray.
Doonray. We're going to have to go on to the next segment, Mark.
We're going to have to, Russ.
I'm clutching a handful of squibs. I hope they don't.
I fear the moisture in your hand, Russ, might be enough to make them less dry. So put them down quick.
You may notice something rather unusual about this bike, apart from the fact it doesn't have any brakes, and that is that it doesn't have a chain from the pedals to the back wheel. Now, bicycles have had chains for over 100 years, and that's because no one's come up with a better device than a chain to transmit the energy from the leg muscles to the back wheel, or front wheel as the case may be. But now, a company keen to extol the wondrous potential of hydraulic power has come up with the first known hydraulic bicycle. As I pedal, this pump here converts the energy into pressurised fluid. It travels along that top pipe into another pump, which converts it back into moving energy. That drives the wheel. The fluid then flows back down the second pipe and so continually circulates throughout the system. But it's useless. Well, no, not exactly useless, that's not fair. But it's up to 3 times less efficient than a chain-driven bike because so much of my energy is lost as heat in the pumps. So, the next time you're slogging up a 1 in 3 on your bike, remember no matter how tough it is, it's the most efficient there is around. Good night.
Well, Mark, I don't want to come in swinging against hydraulics once again for the second time this episode after ranting and raving about Judith.
Is hydrolophobia a thing, Ross?
Radley raving about Judith's pointless brake line situation. But this hydraulic bicycle, Mark, it's an absolute travesty of a last item, isn't it? My squibs are damper than a Doomray nuclear reactor.
I wrote, I think, the least amount I've ever written for a segment in our notes. And I felt guilty. I felt ashamed that I had written so little, but there was so little to write. And then you came along and you blew me out of the water by writing 40% of what I wrote, but just by writing ha 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 fucking hell. This is so annoying because I know at the beginning of the episode you posited with your eyes to the future, you posited that maybe this is the producer, his obsession with bikes meant that he just would try and get them in any way he could. My theory about the whole episode, having watched it now several times, is that they had absolutely nothing to broadcast and that they had to fill it with whatever. This bike feels like a weird press release for the hydraulics industry, and Tomorrow's World had no choice but to put it on because they had literally nothing else to... We learn nothing. There is no innovation here. It's interesting. It's an interesting kind of fun thing. Just like, oh, you can do it, but the only thing we learn is that you shouldn't.
No.
Interestingly, the only other time we've seen a bicycle on this show was that weird episode where they tried to project into the future, and they had that...
Oh, yeah, the
bicopter?
Die
rotor. It's like every time they put a bike on, the only thing you ever learn is that bicycles are really efficient. I don't know how efficient they are in comparison to this crap, but... Well, it really pissed me off, Russ.
I can tell you,
the thing is, I don't know whether we double down and we talk about this non-stop for 15 minutes just for shits and giggles. But actually, I'm inclined to go, let's move on. But I'm sure you've learned something that is worth our time.
One fact, Mark. One fact. We read one fact per segment. Hydraulic bicycle, 75% efficient. Load of old rubbish, as Kieran says. Too much heat. Normal bicycle, 99% efficient. One of the most...
That's incredible.
Possibly the most efficient machine known to man. Can't improve upon it, Mark.
That's really impressive. No, that's hugely impressive.
If you converted... All right, two facts. If you converted all of the calories burnt while cycling a bike, and you did it like for like with the amount of fuel, the amount of energy in the fuel that you burn in a car, you are essentially doing 3,000 miles per gallon. That's how efficient it is.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So they either put this on the show because the producer is obsessed with cycling.
He's deliberately putting crap bikes on the programme to wind up Raymond at home.
Oh, there is that actually. So there are three reasons that they might put this on. One, he just likes bicycles. Two, even 6 years after Raymondo left, he's still trying to fucking needle him. Or three, my particular pet theory, which is that they had absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And so they had to put anything on. See, but here's my question then. The hydraulics company that made this because they were wanting to show how hydraulics could be used for other things, all this does is reveal how bad hydraulics are.
Yeah.
So what on earth do they think? Yeah, how inefficient, how costly they are in terms of the loss of energy into whatever it is you're trying to do. What were they thinking?
I don't know. Maybe this isn't a hydraulics company. I mean, you've come up with a hydraulics. He didn't mention a hydraulics company, does he? What does he?
I thought he did, didn't he?
Did
he? Well, I'd swear he said it was invented by a hydraulics company.
I just thought maybe it was just coupled together by that lunatic with the battering ram van.
No, you leave Ray out of this.
Ray the van, as his mates call him.
Probably.
Right, let's not let this monumental squib have any more of our time.
No, that's true. Let's tarry no longer, right?
Yeah. Ding.
Should we crunch the numbers? Let's just move on with our lives. The year in context, Russ. 1980. I know we've covered it before. I think this might be the year we've covered most, actually. So I can't wait for you to tell me something new about 1980 that we already didn't know. Cinema box office.
Well, luckily, Mark, I've got memory like a sieve, so this is all fresh to me. It's only a top four. Number 4, Apocalypse Now. Number 3, The Black Hole. I'll tell you what,
Oh.
I haven't seen that film for many years. I know it's not meant to be good, but I
watched
feel
it-
like it might be quite interesting. Is it interesting?
Yes, it's boring, but it is interesting. I watched it because they put it on Disney Plus, and it was the first time it had become like a streaming for a donkey's years. And it was like there was a big like, oh my god, the Black Hole is on Disney Plus. Yes, it is really interesting and colossally boring, but that ending is genuinely one of the weirdest things I think Disney have ever done ever. And for that reason alone, Russ, I'm in.
Number 2, The Amityville Horror. And number
somewhere else you've
1,
been.
number 1, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Pop chart.
Number 10, Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. Number 9, I Wanna Hold Your Hand by Dollar. Number 8, Better Love Next Time by Dr. Hook. Number 7, Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. I wondered why that was in there, because obviously it's a 60s song, Green Onions.
An ad. It has to be an ad, right?
Quadrophenia, it was in Quadrophenia.
Oh, okay, it's interesting.
Also, do you know that, or did I say this fact last time? This is one of my favourite facts. Obviously, the Test Match Special music is by Booker T and the MGs as well. It's called Soul Limbo, I think it's called. Do you know who's playing the tick, 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 the cowbell bit in that at the beginning of that song?
You most certainly did not mention this in the last episode, so go on.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea who.
Isaac Hayes.
No way.
Yep, Isaac
Wow.
Hayes is playing the cowbell in the music Test Match Special. It's good, isn't it? Number 6, Babe by Styx. Number 5, Please Don't Go by Casey and the Sunshine Band. Number 4, I'm in the Mood for Dancing by the Nolans. I'm sure you're a big Nolans fan, Mark.
Huge, of course. Natch.
Fellow country folk. Number 3,
really.
My Girl by Madness. Number 2, With You I'm Born Again by Billy Preston and Sarita. And number 1, Brass in Pocket by The Pretenders.
Very good. What prices, Russ?
Well, we know exactly what the various costs of car mechanics are, don't we, Mark?
Oh,
We're absolute
don't we just.
experts on that now.
Bloody hell.
Gallon of petrol, £1.28. Bottle of whiskey, Teachers, £5.29. Large loaf of bread, 36.5 pence. Cindy doll, £5.50. Average house price, £23,500. Can of Coke, 16 pence. Family pack of Smith's crisps, 17.5 pence. Pot noodles, 32.5 pence. And a pound of Australian cheddar cheese, 92 pence. Why would anybody be getting cheddar cheese from Australia?
I have no idea. Argos like Russ.
It is, of course, Mark, in the Argos catalogue. The mighty Russell Hobbs 3636 Futura automatic kettle. It's got a spout filling with water level indicator. Cannot, and I'm stressing this, Mark, it cannot be switched on unless there is sufficient water covering the element. Switches off when boiled, safety cutout, 2,400 watts, capacity 3.5 pints, BEAB approved, £23.99.
Wow, that's incredible. Bloody hell. Magazine covers.
Popular Science has high technology cars for the mid-80s. It's got a rubbish-looking car. It looks a bit like Wayne's World, the car they drive in that.
Yeah.
AMC Gremlin, I think it's called, or Pacer. Anyway, it looks like one of those, but it's got gull-wing doors that shows you it's the car of the future. And Scientific American has the Volcanoes of Io. Also, Io, famously where Dave parked the Discovery in that film. Time magazine, Grain as a Weapon, Who Wins, Who Loses? 40 Times, Simulacra, Son of Sam, 1859 Fishful, and Stigmatic Heretic. Private Eye has Mrs. Thatcher standing in the kitchen of what looks like probably a council flat with the couple either side of her. The man looks remarkably like Ian Lee from the 11 o'clock show. And he's saying, why are you putting up the price of gas? And Maggie's saying, so you won't be able to afford that either. Headline is 27% shock horror high-speed gas rise. And Playboy, it's actually a very good cover of Playboy. It has Steve Martin wearing just as few clothes as the two playmates either side of him. So he's just wearing like this stupid sort of nappy type thing and a bow tie, and so it's a good picture. Wild and crazy anniversary issue with Steve Martin interview. Up against the 1980s, Alvin Toffler's new future shocker, the NFL's sexiest cheerleaders, fun and pyjama games at the Playboy Mansion West, and San Francisco, gay power ignites a straight backlash. Sounds like those gays are up getting too big for their boots, Mark. That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? I hope they went around dishing out copies of Playboy to try and straighten those lads up.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because they're far too fond of their boots, as we said. All right, then, here we go. This is it now.
Yeah.
Here we go. Most important invention, Russ. This is going to be real easy. Is it the sticky microphone? Is that the only thing? Or is it the bucket? Because it's not the desk. Oh my God, it's the fucking microphone.
Yeah, it's got to be the microphone.
It's going to be the goddamn microphone.
It's got to be the microphone. At least that has functional uses that we can picture.
Most worthless invention.
Ooh, well, it's either the hydraulic items, it's either a long pipe or a...
Oh, thank God you reminded me of the bike. It's bicycle. The bike, Russ. It's the bicycle, yeah. Most inaccurate prediction of the future.
The idea that golf ball is going to be turned into a visitor centre.
Oh, yes. Worst screw-up?
Rod saying the early worm catches the worm. Whatever it is he says.
The noisy worm catches the early worm. Best attempt at making something boring interesting.
Rod's song.
Oh, for the whole episode, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to cover the whole goddamn episode. Oh, best use of music, Russ.
Rod's song.
Yeah. Best or worst use of furniture.
Well, it's a desk off. It's a triple desk off, Mark. It's a triple desk. I've never thought I'd see a royal rumble amongst desks. A royal rumble of desks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 desks enter, but only one top man leaves, right?
It's got to be the Abu Dhabi special, Mark. It's got to be the Abu Dhabi special. I mean, in any other episode, the other 2 desks would probably come flying out the traps, but
they'd be iconic in any other episodes.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this one, they've come up against the absolute master.
Most notable clothing?
Not a lot in this episode. I had a couple of looks. It's a lot of beige and grey suits.
It's either Roy's overalls.
Yeah.
Or it's Judith's boots.
I was going to say Judith's leather boots. Yeah.
Judith's boots.
We get them on display when she's pumping the pedal. Yeah, pointlessly.
Yeah. Did we see anything in the episode that made it through to the future? I mean, the show just barely.
Heart disease.
It did. You're right. Buckets.
Yeah, buckets. Heart disease.
Actual bicycles.
I mean,
we know Dune Ray is going to be around for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Just another 350 years or so.
That'll do. Yeah. What did this episode tell us about the 24th of January 1980?
I mean, they've absolutely running on vapors. They need somebody to grab hold of them and quickly. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they need to do or why this is happening.
Well, that's what I was going to surmise. I suspect that this tells us about the 24th of January 1980. They've just finished their Christmas holidays because there is no other excuse for what we're seeing.
I don't know.
That was a long Christmas.
I mean, I said at the beginning that Black Stad finished in 1980.
Yeah,
left the program. Maybe he's checked out already. He's not that interested in putting together a decent program anymore.
You could absolutely right, because we're not yet in the era of the same epoch where they alternate between the black void and the white void. This is all white void.
Yeah.
So because that was the first episode we did was January 81, and that already, this feels like such a different program to that one we did then. I suspect you're absolutely right. I think it does feel. Ooh, it does feel a bit fumey, doesn't it? Right, the tropes, Russ, the tropes. Presenter having to speak over a louder sound. Can't think of anything.
No, I mean, that clip-clop alarm is
unless
not
you count the bloop.
No, that's
It's not really loud. It's the whole point of it. It's supposed to be
pleasant
soothing.
clip-clop.
It's something to do with oil rigs? Nothing to do with oil rigs. Suspiciously obvious brand name of the ad-free BBC. Do we count Bedford and Volkswagen?
No, I think cars. No,
I think
you can't.
you're right.
You can't show a car without showing its badge. It's just
no.
It's just what happens.
Be a bit weird, wouldn't it? Clear and blatant lying.
No, well, no, because Judith's not. Judith is a mistake. So that's not a lie.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything. There's nothing egregiously false, is there?
Oh, Rod suggesting that you can watch Tomorrow's World on the CCTV screen.
Phew, Russ, well recovered. Yes, absolutely. So I'll take that one. Clear and lying. No evil farmers. Oodles of casual sexism. Dutch angle.
No, they only mentioned the Dutch was in relevance to
Emmanuel, right?
Yeah.
Sadly. Episode ends in a damp squib. You better believe, my friend. Any lasers? No. Any magnets? No. No boats?
No.
Baxter does not bugger off?
No.
And we did not travel to Shepherd's
Baxter
Bush.
sits at home fuming, I would have thought.
He's already buggered off. Arguably, we are in a constant state of him having buggered off.
I bet he's had to storm down to his basement to cool down. He's that angry.
Oh, absolutely. And we all know how many degrees centigrade it is down there. Yeah. With our by the way, I never tell you how many we click. We have ticked 4 out of 17, I think, and 2 of them are really generous. So this might be the least tropey episode we've ever seen. But the only thing I have left to say, Russ, for me personally, is that there are 1,409 episodes of Tomorrow's World that were broadcast. We have audited 46 of those episodes, Russ.
Good
which
Lord.
means there are only 1,363 left for us to audit.
I wonder how many of them are of a higher or lower quality than this particular episode, Mark. What quality percentile do you think we're in?
I'd like to think we're in the bottom. At least the bottom half. Will we order them before Dune Ray gets its orphanage? That's what I want to know, Russ.
Well, Mark, I've got to go now, I'm afraid. I've just received a notification on my phone. It's a Black Friday flash sale. HMV.
Ooh.
50% off greatest hits albums at HMV. And
I've
just run through there. Yeah. And they've got the Essential Michael Rod.
Oh, what?
Yeah, half price, Mark. Half price.
That's all I've ever wanted.
Half price. It's only 30 quid. So before everyone snaps up that I mean, that's the cheapest I've ever seen it, Mark. Honestly,
that's enough to get your engine changed for us.
Yeah, it's by far the cheapest I've ever seen it. So I'm gonna have to get online and get orders for myself several copies. Obviously, copy for myself, copy for you.
Of course, naturally.
Copy for each member of my family. So yeah, I mean, that's Christmas sewn up. So that's great. God
the rods
bless.
will eat this Christmas, won't
yes,
they?
Yes,
thanks to the coat, yes.
Rod bless Black Friday, Mark. One and all. Beautiful. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. Sorry it was an awful episode tomorrow as well. Maybe you've enjoyed it. Who knows? Who knows what you enjoy, you sick bastards.
Perverts, Russ. I tell you, the goddamn perverts.
But yes, we'll be back very soon because it's nearly Christmas, isn't it? It's only a couple of weeks' time, and we'll come out with a Christmas episode. So that's something to look forward to. I'll make sure that it's released on the very morning when you're cracking open your presents.
God bless you, merry gentlemen, let nothing.
That's a good one, actually. Yeah, that's a good.
Steal that for the title.
Yeah, steal that for the title.
Cut out my singing then.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, so until next time, if you are on the internet, we will see you tomorrow.
Cheerio.
It's very nice to have the chance to sing a scientific song on a show like Tomorrow's World. Make the bill complete, tap your feet, hit the beat on the skin of a big bass drum. Ooh, I could sing about microchips all night long. It's good to have the chance to sing a scientific song.